Hey, look, we've all heard of, rule of thumbs when it comes to retirement planning, investing, and financial planning. Well, I want to share with you a few of these rule of thumbs and why you may not want to follow them.
Lightning strikes and then you're gonna know my name.
Hey there, my name is Keith Wilson, and I am a financial advisor helping folks just like you with their financial journey. And over the years, I've heard of, these certain financial rule of thumbs. So I want to discuss some of these rules and why you may not want to, just blindly follow them. So first up, right out of the gate, the 4% rule. So the 4% rule was developed by a financial advisor, Bill Bengen, back in 1994. He set out to determine what percentage of your portfolio could you withdraw from and have it last for a 30-year retirement. He did a lot of work on this. He gathered data from the stock and bond market over a 50-year period from 1926 to 1976. And after a lot of research, he discovered that by investing 50% in stocks and 50% in bonds and withdrawing 4% from your portfolio in the first year of retirement and then adjust it, for inflation each year, then there was a high degree of success for not running out of money. That sounds good. It is good, but here's the problem with the 4% rule. It is accounting for the absolute worst case scenario. I have seen studies from Morningstar and others that state 96% of the time, individuals who followed the 4% rule over 30 years passed away with a portfolio balance that exceeded the value of their portfolio in the first year of retirement. Withdrawal rates in retirement are dynamic. And in my experience, people will withdraw more in the first several years of retirement, and then they scale back as they age. Also, if you considered having 2 years of income you will need in retirement in cash and withdrawing from that portfolio of cash instead of your investment portfolio, this would help with mitigating the sequence of returns risk. Now, some have said that the 4% rule is dead. It's outdated. Even Bill Bengen, the author of the 4% rule, has later stated that you could get by with a 5% withdrawal rate. So really, I think the 4% rule should be used as a guideline. Maybe, back of the napkin, maybe a starting point, but it really comes down to what your retirement is going to look like and plan for your specific needs. Now, next, let's talk about what percent you should have in stocks in your portfolio versus bonds. And guess what? There is a rule for that as well, which states all you do is you take 100 and subtract your age, and that's how much you should have allocated to stocks, and the rest would be in bonds. All right. I definitely disagree with this. For example, let's say someone is 25 years old and they are saving for retirement. If we follow this rule, we would take 100 minus 25 and come up with 75% to be allocated to stocks and 25% to bonds. So someone 25 years old may have 30 or 40 years until they retire. And listen, in my opinion, they should not have anything allocated to bonds at that age and that time horizon. You see, the longer the time horizon, the more risk you could take with stocks because you have more time for the portfolio to recover in down market years. Now, on the other hand, if that same 25-year-old is saving for, say, a down payment on a house that they want to purchase, say, in 5 years, then they should consider a far more conservative allocation. So it's not all about age when coming up with how much should be allocated to stocks. Look, I have a lot of clients in their 80s with a significant amount allocated to stocks. So this notion of subtracting your age from 100, it's kind of goofy to me. How much you have allocated to stocks is more about your time horizon and goals. The longer the time horizon, the more allocation to stocks should be considered. All right, moving on. How much life insurance should you have? Well, the rule of thumb for this one is 10 times your salary. So this is so generic. This is so vague because you may need more than that and you may need less. When determining how much life insurance you need, you should consider really several factors, one of which is how many years your income will be needed in the event of a premature death. What about if you have a stay-at-home spouse? Then they may need it for many, many years. How about debt? Add your debt balances like mortgage that you may want to have paid off if you die. What about children? You may want to have sufficient amounts for their college education if you pass. Also, take into account how much money you have already saved up and where it is located, because that's very important. So there are plenty of life insurance needs calculators online that can help you with this. Bankrate.com has a pretty simple calculator that you can check out online, and it walks you through inputting all this data, like what will burial cost will be, how many years you want your net income to last, and at what amount, how much money you have already saved up, how many children do you have, and what one-time expenses you would like to have paid off, like a mortgage or college education. So by just saying your life insurance amount should be 10 times your salary does not take into account all of these situations. You need to be more intentional with the amount needed. All right, this next one is really not a rule per se, but something that media and really financial advisors will push. And I've said it before, I'm guilty of it. And that is max out your 401k. Now, the maximum contribution to a 401k in 2024 is $23,000. And if you are over 50, it's $30,500. Now, if you can max it out, that's great. But let's consider a few things here. If you are, plowing all that money to the 401k, there really is a tax bomb waiting for you when you retire and you start withdrawing money from it. So I would look at this a little differently. Let's say you are able to save $23,000 a year. You may want to consider splitting that $23,000 into different types of accounts. So if you have seen my videos in the past, you know I'm a big proponent of the 3-bucket strategy. Tax deferred, like a 401k or IRA. Tax free, like the Roth IRA or HSA. And the taxable account, like a brokerage account. Now, how much you should have in each one of those type of accounts is going to be different for each person because it really depends on your tax situation, your age, and your income. But the idea would be to have some exposure to each type of those accounts. Now, certainly you would want to consider contributing at least to the company match in your 401k, but beyond that, consider spreading it out. And that taxable account is the most overlooked by a lot of people. Now, I won't get into the depth of that in this video, but I'll leave a link to a video that I posted with more details. And by the way, you could simply automate your savings into each of these accounts just like you do with your 401k. So some of these rules are just guidelines, while some are simply just write down silly, in my opinion. But it does take some planning when you are talking about how much to withdraw from your portfolio when you retire, how much you should have allocated to stocks, how much life insurance do you need, and where to allocate your savings. If you like what you're seeing so far, check out this next video, subscribe to the channel. Lord willing, we'll see you next time.